Hello again and welcome back to the channel. Now we've finally made it to February, which is good news, right? And what that means is that I can finally get seed sowing and I can start my seed compost experiment. Now the seed compost experiment was one of the first things that I actually did on this channel. And the reason why was because I wanted to see, does it make sense to spend extra money on specialist seed composts, or can a good multi-purpose compost do the job just as well? So the results last year were very revealing. One of the seed composts was the clear winner and the other one really underperformed. It actually did far worse than all of the multi-purpose composts, despite the fact that it wasn't the cheapest by any means. So I'm really interested to repeat the experiment and to see if I get the same results as last year or if something completely different happens. I have decided to include the winner and the underperformer, and I've also thrown in a few new composts into the mix. So let me show you the contenders this year. Okay, so let's talk about the contenders. Here then are the specialist seed mixes, and I'm going to start by talking first about the defending champion, the one that did by far the best last year, and that is the coir bricks. What I found last year when I used this was that I got more plants, they germinated more quickly, and they looked much stronger and healthier, and there really was a visible difference. So that is as I say, the defending champion that needs to defend its position. Moving on then to the rocket grow here. Now I also used this in the experiment last year, and I have to say it was the underperformer of the group. It actually did worse than the other multi-purpose composts. So it's going to be interesting to see if it does any better this year. Now on the top of the bag here, I noticed there's this label, new and improved blend. And it does make me wonder, is that kind of an admission that the blend last year wasn't very good? Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if it does perform better this year. And the final specialist seed compost that I'm going to use here is the Westland John Innes. I've not tried this before. I don't know how good it's going to be. I've chosen it because it is peat-free, and I do always choose peat-free composts. But yeah, this is kind of the new contender, the new kid on the block. So let's see how it does. Moving on then to the non-specialist mixes. We've got the Miracle Grow peat-free all-purpose multi-compost there. I didn't try this last year. I don't know how it's going to do, but obviously Miracle Grow are a really big name in the gardening world. So let's see how that performs. Here we have then the Melcourt Silver Grow. I've not used their multi-purpose before, but I have used other composts from this brand and I found them to be good. And yeah, I can see that they've been endorsed by the RHS, which usually means that they've done trials and they've found it to have good results. I think that's a sign of good quality, but let's see how we get on with that. And then finally, we have the Dalefoot. Obviously, it's not technically speaking a multi-purpose compost, but I do find that this does really well for me, for my vegetables, as it says there, and I often have it in my garden. So in a way, for me, this is part of the control group, because if I've always got a bag of this on the go in my garden, the seed composts need to prove to me that they're better than this compost, because otherwise I'm just going to use this compost. I did use it last year in the seed compost experiment, and I found it to do quite well. It didn't do as well as the coir blocks, but it definitely did do better than the Rocket Grow seed mix. So yeah, I'm trying that out again, and yeah, let's see how it does. I'd be really interested to hear your predictions. Do you think the seed composts are going to do better? Or do you think the general multi-purpose compost will do just as well? What experiences have you had? Have you used these specialist seed mixes before? I did want to show you some action shots. Well, not really action, but some shots of me filling up the containers with the different composts. But my stand has decided to break, so you're just going to have to believe me that I did that. But what I can show you is that there's already a massive difference that you can visually see between the different compost mixes. Here then are my different compost mixes. Now you can clearly see that there is visually a difference between all of them, so you know that I haven't been up to no good in the garden. Now on the left we've got the seed composts. The one on the far left here, you probably don't need me to tell you that, is the Koya, so the coconut mix. In the middle, we've got the Westland John Innes, which has quite an interesting texture. It's almost sandy, yeah. And then here we've got the Rocket Grow. But yeah, very different colours. And then moving on to the general compost. On the far right here, we've got the Dalefoot wall compost with this lovely dark colour. I will say that I think some of the lumps in here are a bit big, and so some of the finer seeds like the onions might struggle. The Malcourt Silver Grow, this is looking good, has quite a nice fine texture to it. And the Miracle Grow, yeah, it's very fibrous. I'm not really sure how well that's going to do. And yeah, I've got all my labels in place, as you can see. So the blue is for the seed compost, the purple is for the general compost, and then down the side, actually what I'm going to be sowing in each row. And so they're going to be side by side, so it's going to be very easy to compare results. Now when I'm doing the sowing, I'm going to be as careful as I can be to make sure that I put the same number of seeds in each one. Has to be said that some of these seeds are very fine, so it's not an exact science. When I get into my tomato seeds next month, it will be much easier then because they are that little bit bigger. So let's talk a little bit about the 3 types of seeds that I'm going to sow in these different mixes. I thought I'd kick off with my mizuna. If you watch this channel, you know that I like to grow mizuna quite a lot. I really like the slightly spicy peppery leaves that they have. And yeah, they're ideal for sowing at this time of year because they actually don't like things too hot. When I used mizuna seeds for my experiment last year, what I noticed was that the actual leaves themselves had a different colour depending on the type of compost I used, and you could kind of visibly see which ones were happier and which ones weren't. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens again this year. So the second variety I'm going to be sowing are spring onions, and I've gone for this beautiful purpley red variety called Lilia, which I do think looks stunning. The reason I've gone for onions is because I've often struggled to germinate onion seeds and to have much success with them. So I can have a whole tray and, you know, only a handful of plants at the end of it. So I'm really wondering if using a different compost mix could actually help me with that. And finally, on the subject of onions, as you know, if you've watched this channel before, I've been trying to add different perennial vegetables to my garden. I'm already growing brassicas like perennial kale, and also some perennial salad plants. And if you don't know why I'm doing that, you need to watch my video. I'll put a link in the description. But yeah, I thought I'd have a go at growing perennial onions, which are called Welsh onions. So I'm going to be sowing them too. Right, okay, so let's get sowing. I'm going to start with my mizuna first. Yeah, so I'm putting approximately 10 seeds in each one. There's, how many are there? I think I saw there's about 200 in here, so I should have plenty of seeds. Okay, that's the seed compost done. Now on to the general. The Miracle Grow, I have to tell you, it's got a lot of, like you can still see like the grass where it hasn't decomposed properly yet. It's got a lot of these strands in it. I don't hold out much hope for the Miracle Grow, which is a shame because I think it was one of the cheapest. Okay, so there we go. So that's those seeds done. Now onto the spring onion. So my lovely purple spring onion, Lilia. Never grown it before. Looking forward to that. Again, it's got 500 seeds, so we should be good. Yes, as you can see, I've been really fastidious with the labelling here. I've got a lot of labels, which is good, because if I don't label this properly, we might as well all just go down the pub now. This experiment's going to be a complete waste of time. There we go. So that's those sown. So hopefully I'll have some lovely spring onions. And then finally moving on then to my perennial onions, the Welsh onions from Premier Seeds Direct. I've got 1,200 of these seeds, so I think we've got enough. All right, how am I going to get into this bag? It's one of these fiddly bags. Right, technical bit of kit, some nail scissors. I was also thinking, because I had several broad bean plants that died in the recent cold snap, so I think I'm also going to sow some broad bean plants. Don't worry, I'm not going to film that as well. But I think I might as well use it as an opportunity to try out the different compost mixes for broad beans. Now, I have to say broad beans are an incredibly resilient plant and they nearly always germinate, right? So I'm not really going to be checking germination rates. But nevertheless, I would be interested to see if the plants look bigger and stronger. Perhaps even for something like a broad bean plant, the compost mix makes a difference. Who knows? My stand still didn't arrive, so I'm having to, and I couldn't fix it, so I've got a very interesting setup to film this. This camera's propped up on a load of different pots and things, which is quite funny. There we are then. That's them sown. I'll give them a good water, tamp them down a bit, and yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see which seeds germinate first. And of course, as soon as I do start seeing some shoots showing, I'll be telling you all about that, because that's always very interesting to see. Last year when I did my courgette / zucchini, depending on where you are, seeds, what I noticed was that the one in the coir bricks mix germinated about 2-3 weeks before any of the other seeds germinated. So sometimes you get quite dramatic results. But let's see how it goes this time round. Now, if you've enjoyed watching this video, and I'm going to assume that you have because you've made it this far, please don't forget to like and also have a think about subscribing, because it's the one thing that you can do that really does help the channel out, and you know it's completely free of charge. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.